Now this is Naveed Khan. How are you? I hope you are doing well. Dear student, in our previous class we had some discussion about the correlation and regression. But here in this class we will solve some questions related to correlation and regression. So here we have one example. Now in this example, a corporation owns several companies. The strategic planner for the corporation believes dollars spent on advertising can to some extent be a predictor of total sales in dollar. Actually, now my dear student, a corporation who owns several companies. Now in the year 2009, they want to see whether there is a relationship between advertising and sale. Now the amount which they spend on advertising, if this amount is going to increase, then the sale will also be going to increase. Okay, so here is the amount which they spent on advertising. So several companies, the first company they spent the $10 million, the second companies they spent $4 million on advertising, and result of that advertising, the amount which they spent on, so as a result their sale is $148 million. Now the second company they spend $4 million, as a result their sale is $55 million. Okay, so here now in this question we will find out the correlation between advertising and sale. Okay, so now dear student, here we will discuss some topics, some points. So the first point is draw the scatter plot for the variables. The second is compute the correlation coefficient for the data. And now what type of the relationship will be after the result of part B. For example, after getting the result of the part B, after getting the correlation coefficient, then we will be able to see that whether this relation will be positive or whether this relation will be negative. Okay, so after this we will draw the least square regression line, which is the form of y is equal to a plus bx, and we know that this a represent the y-intercept, and p it represent slope of the regression line. Then in the next point it will be, we will take any two points between the small number and the largest number from the values of x, and then we will put that 2 points in the regression line to draw. That 2 points will help us to draw the regression line. So now the last point is very important. Okay, when we finish our question, then we will be able to predict the total sale in the future. For example, let's suppose if we will spend x is equal to $80 million on advertising, then how much will be saved with respect to with the result of this x is equal to $80 million. Okay, if we will spend $80 million on advertising, then how much will be our sale. So now dear student, here now in this slide, so we have 5 columns. The first columns, all the values of x are here. In the second column, here we have the values of y. Now in the third column, this x multiplied by y, let's suppose here we have 13 multiplied by 148, so the answer is 5434. Okay, and similarly in the fourth column we have x square. Okay, so x is already been given, so we will take the square of x square. It will become 169 16 484, and in the last column we have y square. Okay, now in the last row we will sum all, sum of x, then sum of y, sum of xy, sum of x square, and sum of y square. Okay, now my dear student, here in this slide, we have this Pearson correlation coefficient formula to find out the value of our correlation coefficient. Okay, so here we will use this formula. Now after putting all the values from the previous slide, okay, from the table, so all the values, well, we will put here n sum of xy minus sum of x sum of y divided by square root of n into sum of x square minus sum of x whole square. If we will put all the values of these sum of x sum of xy from their table, so we will get the value of r is equal to 0.949. okay, so here we will take only 3 decimal place. Our answer should be only 3 decimal place. It means that after point we will write down only 3 numbers. So now the value of r is 0.949. okay, so what does it mean? It means that this number, the value of r, which is very close to 1, and we know that if the value of the correlation coefficient is from 0 to 1 is greater than 0 and less than 1, yeah, is equal to 1, then there will be a positive correlation coefficient, okay, positive correlation between two variables. But now, my dear student, this is greater than 0, but this number is very close to 1, is very close to 1. So now in that case we see that there is a strong positive correlation between advertising and sale. Okay, dear student. Now, my dear student, here in this slide we will find out the least square regression line, and we know that the formula which we have is y is equal to a plus bx, and we know a represent y intercept and b represent slope of the regression line. okay, so now this is the formula to find out the y intercept. okay, this is the Pearson formula. A is equal to sum of y sum of x square minus sum of x sum of xy divided by sum of x square minus sum of x whole square. okay, so now, my dear student, we will put all these values from the given table, okay, from the table in slide number 3, and then after getting all the values from their table, so the value of a, it will become minus 51.3. okay, this is the value of a. Now to find the value of b, so here is the value, this is the formula to find out the value of b, n into sum of xy minus sum of x sum of y divided by n into sum of x square minus sum of x whole square. okay, so after putting all the values from the slide number 3 from the given table, so the value of b will be 15.3. okay, now here we have the value of a and here we have the value of b. So now we have to put the value of a and the value of b in the given regression line to get the required least square regression line. okay, so this is the least square regression line. So the value of a and b, after putting the value of a and b, so we have y cap is equal to minus 51.3 plus 15.3x. okay, so now, dear student, this is very important, and here we will get the value of the y cap, which is minus 51.3 plus 15.3x. okay, now, dear student, after this we will take any two values between the small number and the highest number from the given value of x. Let's suppose I took over 15 and the second number which I took is 45. okay, now these two values, when I put in the regression line, so when we put x is equal to 15, so now the value of y, it will become 178.2, and now the value x is equal to 45. For the value of x is equal to 5, the value of y, it will be $637.2 million. okay, now, dear student, here, so these are the values, and with the help of these values we will draw a least square regression line. okay, now in the sixth part, the sixth point is predict the total sale for x is equal to 40. It means that if we will spend x is equal to 80, means that if we will spend x is equal to $80 million on advertising, then what will be our sale? okay, So this x is equal to 80. Put here in the regression equation at place of x, put here 80, then the final answer it will become y is equal to $1,172.7 million. Okay, dear student. So the predicted value for x is equal to 80 is $1,172.7 million. Okay, dear student. So I took this question from the elementary statistics 10th edition. Okay, thank you, dear student. Now take care and see you in our next lesson. Thank you very much. Wassalam.